I'm Nadia Dunn, your host of CCL TV's More Than Packages interview series. But who are CCL? Well, CCL are an independent and neutral third-party logistics service provider and custom clearance specialist. From e-concept to e-logistics for e-commerce, CCL has the e-solution. In this episode, we'll be in conversation with Dan March, who's the CEO of WCA World. And joining in on the discussion from our CCL team is CEO Rudee Bertie. Guys, thank you so much for joining me today. How are you both?
Very well, thanks, Nadia. It's lovely to join you.
Yeah, all
Lovely
good, Nadia.
to see you. So, Dan, can you start by telling us who you are, your background and your role within WCA?
Yeah, my name's Dan March and I'm the CEO, as you said, of WCA World. And my role is to oversee the network, the global network, be involved in strategy, development, management of our teams around the world, and most importantly, make sure our members are receiving all the benefits and value from the network that we offer. It's a really exciting and challenging and very interesting job in a segment of the market that's often ignored, but is actually, I think, really vital to global trade.
Well, it's the largest and most powerful network of independent freight forwarders, so I've read. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, so the network was set up in 1998, so we're well over 20 years old, and it was established by our chairman, David Yoakum, who saw an opportunity to create a network that allowed all this disparate but professional small and medium-sized freight forwarders and logistics providers around the world to come together and pool their talents and resources in a single network and provide an alternative to multinational freight forwarders that would provide local expertise, greater customer service, that hands-on approach to business, but also have the benefits of global reach. So it started small. It started obviously with a handful of members, and David worked extremely hard in those first 5 years, traveling 260, 70 days a year all around the world to find and bring into the network good local companies from countries from Asia, Africa, every continent, to create that foundation for the network. And since that time, we've added more and more benefits, and we've grown, and we're now just short of 10,000 member offices worldwide now, which
Wow.
is quite phenomenal, starting from zero. But I think it's a reflection of how we've managed to develop benefits and value to the membership, that they not only continue to join but stay as members of the group. And it's a pretty unique organization in terms of scope and size compared to, we have a number of very good other competitors in the market, but we are by far the largest and probably the most established.
And with that amount of member offices in 200 countries?
Yeah, pretty much 193, I think we're on now. Pretty much every country apart from the sanctioned countries around the world we have membership in.
So an IT-focused operation must be really important to kind of ensure secure tech around those offices.
Yeah, it is important. We established sort of 2 IT teams in our company, so one in Bangkok and one in India, and their sole focus was to build not only the platforms for us, but to begin to develop platforms for the members to communicate effectively. Having said that, in the world of freight forwarding, face-to-face meetings and personal contact, personal trust, personal relationships still play a very big role, but that's now being increasingly augmented by a whole range of new digital products, and the transformation of the business. I think for me, it's more an evolution than a revolution. And as Rudee will know, in our business, things don't change that quickly. But we are evolving, and the brighter companies are evolving with really smart new solutions that will keep us at the top of our game and competitive with bigger companies around the world.
And obviously a lot of the digital solutions that are coming through are because of the pandemic. How have WCA World reacted to the pandemic? And obviously coming out of the end, are you now changing everything back to face-to-face, or are you using the two platforms together?
It was really interesting. We had as Rudee will know, we had our large annual meeting, which attracts around 3,000 of our members, due in Macau in the end of February 2020. So just over 16 months ago, just as a pandemic was breaking. And we took an early decision, seeing the way it was going, to cancel that physical meeting. The physical meetings are really important for our members because that's where they connect with like-minded companies from countries around the world. And it left a void for these companies to develop business and develop new partnerships. So within a month or so, we decided that we would have to try and develop a online conference solution or purchase from a third party to allow us to at least provide some of the benefits of the physical meeting in a virtual world. We tried a small conference with one of our smaller groups with a third party system, but we decided that wasn't really tailored to our needs. So we spent a fair amount of money and time developing our own online virtual conference system, which we launched in September, and we've now used for the big conference and 6 or 7 smaller conferences. That has been a real benefit to us to allow the members to still communicate with each other. I'm sure most of the members will say it's good, it allows us to contact. It's not the same as a physical conference because you don't get that social time to sit and have a meal in a restaurant or have a drink in a bar and really get to know someone, but at least you get that face-to-face contact. And developing that software, we developed a unique platform that allowed us for everyone to schedule meetings, half-an-hour meetings, wherever they were in the world on their own time zone, so they could see on their own time zone who was available. And they schedule all their meetings prior to the meeting, and then they held their meetings connected through our system and held their one-to-one, face-to-face virtual meetings throughout the 4 days. And despite the challenges, and obviously we can't control when someone's internet drops out or there's a technical problem their end, but the conferences are now running at 91% completion rate for the meetings that have been pre-arranged. So that's given us justification to carry on with this format. We will return to physical meetings when we're able to, but I think we will continue to augment with a number of virtual meetings because it saves people obviously cost and time of travel. We'll do a hybrid approach to our conferences going forward. Yes.
Yeah, I can't wait for the new meetings. I can't wait for the meetings to come back, the live meetings.
I know, and that's really the sentiment for our members. This is good. The virtual meetings are good. They serve a purpose, but we want to get on an aeroplane and meet our partners and our potential new partners as soon as we can. So I would definitely say, long live the physical meeting. It's certainly in our industry doesn't seem to be any loss of appetite for actually meeting face to face.
Like for us, it is definitely key. It's key for players like us. It's key to be at the face-to-face meetings, the live meetings, and the live meeting, in my opinion, is king. It supersedes any virtual conference or virtual meetings like any day of the week.
You just never know who you're going to sit down with and discuss strategy or new ideas with at a physical meeting. So it does add value without doubt.
Well, we've done a few of these interviews, Dan, and it's always the case that people do a lot of business in the evenings, at dinners, at social settings. So there is that is sometimes missed. So yeah, everyone does seem to be looking forward to getting back to the face-to-face scene. But I guess it then gives people the opportunity for people either if it's not in the budget or they can't make it for some reason, that they can still access those platforms and feel like they're part of it.
Exactly. And going forward, we're examining the prospect of doing a hybrid meeting where it is a physical meeting, but for countries. And I think this pandemic in certain parts of the world will be with us for quite a while longer. For any countries who cannot travel or are unable to travel or too worried about the situation to travel, we're going to set up some rooms that will allow a virtual meeting as with a physical attendee and vice versa. So those who can't attend can still attend virtually.
Do you know when your next or your first face-to-face conference will be?
Well, I was talking to Rudee. We have a number of reserved dates, but we can't make a full commitment at this time because of the uncertainty. We have prospects next year of doing something in either Asia, in Singapore, or in Europe, or possibly the Middle East. We'll probably have to make a decision by the end of August, but it's a guesswork. I thought we would be back doing physical meetings by now a year ago, and we're not. So I hope so. I hope that 2022 will see a full return to physical meetings, even if not every single delegate can attend. But I think for the rest of this year, if we do anything, it will be very small and localized. I can't see any big international meetings happening for the duration of 2021, unfortunately.
Well, fingers crossed that it will start again next year. And Rudee, you can get your air miles back up.
Yeah, talking about air miles, Dan's got loads of air miles. He's probably sitting on like millions at the moment, not being able to spend them.
It's true. That was a big change in all of our staff's life, because we have regional offices in 8 different countries to service every part of the world, and our staff's job was to go out and sit with members and understand their needs and their problems and help them with solutions and make sure the membership was fully aware of all the benefits we could offer. And for our staff and for me to go from traveling probably a third to half the year being on the road to 50 months of never even smelling the jet fuel or getting near an airport is a big change. And it was a big change for me personally as well, because my life was 100 miles an hour traveling a lot of the time, like Rudee, and to suddenly be homebound and office bound was probably testing for me, and probably even more testing for my family.
I was going to say, more testing for your wife, I'm sure.
Yeah.
You'd be Chewy waiting to say, who the hell's that? Who's that in my house? Who's that stranger? It's like, and you got something to do today.
Exactly. So yeah, it's been strange, but people adjust quickly, and our members have definitely adjusted quickly for their staff working at home and having to change the entire way they ran their operation. Being nimble in smaller companies, it seemed that they were able to adjust to the new norm really very well, and were dynamic in putting processes and for their staff and for their business in place to make sure there was no disruption to customers, and did a really great job.
I remember I had a conversation with you once, Dan, and I know we was going to Hong Kong or somewhere, and I said, yeah, I'm taking a direct flight. I always booked out, hold out for British Airways. He goes, you're mad. He said, when you go via
Helsinki.
Helsinki, that's it.
Oh, Finnair.
Finnair. I said, what, Finnair? Finnair
Yeah.
go down? He said, yeah, they do now. Because the thing is, if you travel over a certain amount of hours, right, you get double the points. Right? So in one direction, you get double the points. Yeah. Right? So you're doubling up both ways.
Yeah.
And that's how quicker.
That's how you've got so many, Dan. You take the longer route.
Well, it's not only the points; it is saving the company money. I won't fly a longer route for more money just for the points. Put it that way. But yeah,
right. It's more convenient as well, because it breaks up the flights and it actually works out a lot cheaper. And I mean, you could be talking like thousands if you have to fly lastminute.com.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the only time you can go and come back. It does save you thousands.
Yeah.
And you get double points.
Yeah, that's how Rudee gets to the West Indies 5 times a year.
Yeah.
No, six.
So moving on, the WCA have an e-commerce network. Can you give us an insight into any future developments within the group?
Yeah, I mean, when we started e-commerce a few years ago, it was obvious to me that we needed to try and do something in the area. It was the fastest growing area of logistics, and I'm sure you and everyone in the room, and myself included, was suddenly buying huge quantities of goods and whatever online. Obviously the Amazon phenomenon, but loads of other companies also offer online products. And also business to business was moving a little bit more to online purchasing and so on. So we had a conversation. We said we really should try and do something. We don't quite know how this network will develop and what direction it needs to go in, but we need to get started, and we need to try and identify the companies that are really specializing in this area. So that first stage went pretty well. We got amongst CCL, we got a number of really good e-commerce operators into the group from different countries. And then became the challenge that I hadn't realized, that e-commerce is so vast and different, and the needs and challenges are so different in different parts of the world. So an e-commerce provider in China might just be doing stuff for Alibaba, or, it's mostly export based. And the challenges there, or in India, are completely different from the challenges facing European e-commerce providers or US e-commerce providers. And almost each region or even country has its own rules, its own, needs and so on. So, look at South America. That's difficult to export e-commerce into because of the complexities and price of the customs and duties and so on. So we sort of then took a step back and said, okay, we've got a load of good companies. What do we do next? And we moved in a couple of different directions that were either successful or partially successful. But to be perfectly honest, when the pandemic came on, we had to consolidate a lot of other parts of the business, and the strategies were delayed a little. In the last 4 months, we've really returned to the e-commerce network and said, right, we've got a basis, we've got good members, we've got an idea of what most of the members want. We spent time last year or 18 months ago traveling around different parts of the world, asking members for their input and what they really needed. So in the last month, we've drawn up a new strategy going forward, short and medium term, that will hopefully clarify and crystallize some real benefits that we can bring. And later today, actually, I've got a call with our senior board and another company about an exciting idea of setting up alongside the e-commerce network a last mile delivery global solution as well for sort of e-commerce and courier delivery. So it's really challenging. It's of all our networks, it's without doubt the most challenging to get right. But I think if we get it right, it could well in a few years' time be the most important and beneficial to the members.
Just come back to what you said there in regards to with the e-commerce. It's so varied,
yeah.
Right? With different companies. Like a company like CCL, we'll touch on the cross-border wholesale type of movement, whereas you may have like a Indian forwarder doing a lot of retail,
yeah.
Right? So how does that collaboration work from a CCL point of view to the Asian type of logistics provider,
yeah.
Right? So what I'm trying to say is that not everybody falls into that group doing the same thing,
right?
Because I'm only interested in wholesale.
Yeah,
I'm interested in wholesale volume.
Yeah,
I'm interested in B2C.
Yeah.
I'm not interested in B2B when I'm talking about e-commerce. But other companies might be interested in B2B2C, B2C, B2B,
Exactly.
whatever. You know what I mean? So
it is diverse.
Yeah.
You might be doing FBA and FBM only.
Yeah.
You might only be doing, clearances.
Yeah, because I remember in the earlier days as well, when we had the the breakout rooms, and then we had like the mini conferences surrounding the e-commerce. In that room, you could see there's quality in there, but it's how do you get all those quality players to work together?
Yeah, and it is a challenge. It's a real challenge. I think, as following on from that, our idea is to sort of almost regionalize the network in terms of what those members need and look for. Not saying they're not going to be working with all members around the world, but to give other members in Asia a better idea of what European members are doing and what capabilities they have, and the same in different parts of the world, so they can find those solutions to the specific problems or issues they're facing. So yeah, it's work in progress. We made a good start. We've had a little hiatus, and now it's a real focus for us to push on and really learn from the members. I think that's the only way we can make it a success, is to learn both regionally and globally from the members what they really need and how we can help. I think a lot of the success of WCA has come from listening to our members, and our better ideas and better benefits have come from conversations with members where we've talked together and thought about it and managed to develop some sort of solution that will work. So have we cracked it yet? No. Are we going to put 100% effort into trying to create something of real value? Yes, for sure. And I'm hopefully this time in a year's time, I can sit here and say, hey, look, we've really added a lot of new value to this network for the members.
Well, I can say WCA, you are good listeners, and that's like testament. You can see that in the varied groups that you have, from pharma to to the e-commerce to like the generalization freight specialist stuff. You know what I mean? So I could definitely vouch for that. Good listeners.
And we'll get you back in a year, Dan, to just find out if you have cracked it.
Yeah, it would be a pleasure, and I'll give you a full update. Unless it's bad news, in which case I'm busy that day.
Yeah, just cancel it. 24 hours notice is fine. Last thing, Dan, if you're stranded on a desert island, what book or album would you take with you?
Well, that's a good question. I do read quite a lot, but I went from when I was younger reading, novels and adventure novels to I read quite a lot of non-fiction and biographies and autobiographies these days. But music is something that is quite close to me because I grew up in Bristol in the late 80s and early 90s. And I just happened to be at that time with the explosion of what became known as the Bristol scene or trip hop. And it was really exciting because, it wasn't just the music. Banksy went to my primary school. There was a whole sort of cultural, it seemed, explosion at that time of graffiti artists, music, all sorts of stuff going on. And to be a young teenager at that time was really exciting. So I was sort of really drawn into that and went to see a lot of these bands like the Wild Bunch, which eventually morphed into Massive Attack, and Tricky Kid, who became Tricky. Wild Bunch were really a seminal group in the 80s in Bristol and spawned a lot of the other groups. And Portishead were another big band. But it was so accessible. We used to go down to the Moon Club in Stokescroft in Bristol and watch, the Wild Bunch and early Massive Attack before they became famous in these small venues. And it was a really exciting time. And the whole of the UK at that time was also going through this whole change, and indie was becoming huge in the northern cities of Manchester and so on, but in Bristol is really trip hop and that sort of scene. So
which one's your favorite?
Well, my favorite album would be Blue Lines, because that really blew me away when it was launched by Massive Attack in the early 90s. And
drop us a few bars,
I'm not going to sing. But Unfinished Symphony, and those tracks that came out at that time that was the test of time.
That's a strong album, that.
Yeah, it's a very strong album. And if I had to sit on a desert island with one album, it would be that album.
Rudee, you were nodding away there. Any that picked your fancy there?
Yeah, from what he said, Unfinished Symphony, Massive Attack. That's a big song. I'll probably listen to it at least, I don't know, once a month or whatever. Because it's kind of uplifting tune as well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So some of the others, obviously like Tricky and all that. He went into acting, I think. I saw him on some American films and some American sitcoms and stuff like that. But all the other stuff, now you could keep that. keep that your own desert island.
And the other thing, Dan, we've been trying to get Banksy on CCL TV for months now. So if you could put in a good word, that'd be great.
Well, I could tell you his name, but I don't think you'd appreciate it. But yeah.
Right, well, thank you. Oh, go on.
I was going to say, yeah, he's a Bristolian and we're very proud of him.
Yeah, nice.
Oh, brilliant. Excellent. Well, we won't get you to tell us his name while we're on air, just in case we're getting into any legal matters. So thank you so much for joining us. And Rudee, thanks for being here too. And we hope you enjoyed the show. We'll see you next time. And remember that CCL are more than packages.